Round 12, hey, it was going to be not too hard of a week, and then all these injuries hit. And now we've got some options, so we've got some decisions to make. My side, I'll be making 2 trades, it looks like, and there are a couple of options for me. 4 players in total I'm looking at potentially getting into my side. Up top, in the mid, is a section I definitely need to fill the spot. I have AFB or Jazz Tavanga. So Hotboy is the other one. Sorry, Howboy, I think I've learnt, is the other option there at the cheapest spot. But I do think if I decide to go the cheaper route, then Jazz can do the job. You can also fill in for hooker. We don't need it for this week, but potentially later. And should be able to score fairly well in the mid. With Lockie Croker returning, with Simpkin there as well, we shouldn't see Jazz in the 9 position anymore, which is a great win. And somewhere between that, I don't know, high 30s to maybe 55 minutes in the middle would be great. In the starting side, potentially in more in the 50s and hopefully higher if I do buy, but potentially lower, closer to the 40 mark or 45 if it is off the bench. But he does seem to be fairly important to that side. So that's the Jazz Tavanga shout. It's the potential for some decent scores, some coverage later on, and keeping some cash in the bank for me. Now, Dylan Egan is definitely leaving the side, and then the question is going to be Nafahu White or Stafford Toa. I think it's going to be Stafford at the moment. Should have enough cash to, I've been future planning. I did a little live stream with the private group just before, talking through my own team, the plans that I've got in place through the Excel sheet and all that kind of stuff, and how it can work and where we want to go to. So that's, exclusive to those guys. You guys here get all of the explanation, but I'll decide based on loops and all that kind of stuff as well as to exactly what trades I end up making across the weekend, which is again one of the benefits of that private crew. We just had someone join today as well, so still getting some additions, and it's not a large fee at all to jump in, and we're just getting bigger and better for that side of things. Now that's mid, and the other thing I was thinking of was potentially doing a bit of a loop with Savala, and the only way that I can do that is if Sharp ends up in the half slot and I pick a wing fullback. Now, the 2 wing fullbacks I'm looking at are James Tedesco and Ruben Garrick. I've been speaking about them all week, and I personally think that Tedesco is the best option, but is 108k more expensive. Doesn't have dual, misses round 14, which seems to be, from my side, wing fullbacks a little bit of a weaker spot, given I currently only have Tamale, Yongi, and Sharp. Guys like Campbell, I'm looking to potentially have a look at. Getting a Tedesco or Garrick this week is going to help in that section as well. And there will be other guys that do pop up along the way. Eventually, we're going to get Karaz back. Drinkwater becomes a bit of an option as well. So he could be the play next week instead of Campbell if I don't have the necessary funds. These types of things there. So that would be the option in that one. Seems to be a bit of rain about, especially tonight and tomorrow. Saturday seems to clear up a fair bit through Sydney, and I think the Saturday night, or potentially tomorrow night's game, is at Gosford. The Saturday night's game, so hopefully that one's actually fine if the rain holds off. But it looks like today and tomorrow, and it's been terrible up here on the coast this week and the last few weeks as well. So in that scenario, all going well, let's just say it's AFB or Tavanga in that starting side, replaces Payne Haas. So it's going to be Riley Smith, Tarpaneg, Clark, and one of those two. Wong and Hosking, maybe Savala, but he's going to be looped. Let's say Sharp and Hines, and then it's going to be Farnworth, Lucas. We're going to loop Katonga in the second game and make a decision on those 2 centres, but probably more Siwa Wong. To be honest with you, I think that he would be the guy to miss out if Katonga went for a 50. I think I'd rather trust, if we know that Lucas is pretty well set to play in the edge position, I'd trust Lucas over Wong, and Farnworth would have already played, and I'm just going to start him straight up. No point mucking around with that one. If I do sell Stafford Toa, I don't have a centre looper. So yeah, let's just not muck around with that one. And then down below, wing fullback would then be Tamale, Yongi. I'll have to start straight up, and one of Teddy or Garrick. So not the worst situation. Was hoping for a little bit better with just having the Nafahu White there and then maybe make an upgrade in that wing fullback slot. I'm a little bit worried about my trades going forward. If I am to make 2 this week, puts me down to 12. Let's just say we target all the big dogs next week, Kolomatangi, Aitken, Campbell, all those types of players. One, getting the cash to be able to get to them is going to be important. But if I use those 3, I'm down to 9, and then we really have to manage things over that next sort of 5 to 6 week period before we go down to 0 and get the extra 8 come round 20. So goals over the next few weeks is to build up as many keepers as possible. Do we have to trade Payne Haas? Not doing it this week, but he is, especially if he doesn't back up, he's a potential guy I could use to get some cash to build up with those top guys over the next few weeks. So that's a bit of an interesting thought that I'm going through heading into round 12. Hopefully we do have Cleary back next week. If we do end up holding White and Couchman, they're both likely returning in round 15, which could be helpful. Hopefully at minimum we get one of them back by that time. And then there's a couple other guys in this list like Yongi, like Savala, that I can use as trade targets over the next few weeks, potentially Riley Smith as well. King Tongyard, cheap enough to probably just stay. Stafford needs to leave the side. Katonga's a wait and see. And the rest of the squad looking fairly solid. Siwa Wong just doing okay, plugging along. And Tamale doing his job as well. 45 last week. Hopefully we can get a decent score out of him this week as well. So that's my side where we're generally looking at. How are you, setting up into round 12? I'm seeing a lot of teams are in a pretty good spot, especially having slightly better wing fullback. Maybe they have Teddy and Garrick, and Tamale, is a looper, or at least one of those guys with Tamale. Good centers have like Hines and Fogarty, and then strong up top in mids as well with an AFB, which I could get to. And maybe even Clark in hooker. So there will be teams that do really well this week. If you have 13 on the park, you should pretty close to make ranks in anywhere in sort of the top 10K, maybe in the top 1,000 or so. You have to have a really good 13 to make ranks, but you can also get lucky with captaincy and different things like that. And for me personally, it's going to be between Tarpany and Clark. Right now, Clark's sitting there just because he's gone really consistent in the 70s, 70 the last a couple of weeks there. 58 before that, just like Tarpany got. The big difference I see for them, Tarpany's done it for longer over the years. Clark hasn't, but he's also in a position right now where he's playing really, really large minutes and doing a great job. So safety in minutes or a bit more upside in the 90s and stuff like that with Tarpany. You can go for guys like Hines, Farnworth, definitely. AFB is a fun one. Dylan Lucas you could, but I'm worried about his injury. Teddy's a really fun play, but again, it's going to depend on weather, I think, as well. And yeah, that's my size. So sitting with 321k before trades, that's where, getting AFB for Egan and upgrading, Stafford Toa to Teddy or something like that can work really well also. So could be Teddy or Garrick. I think might have to be Garrick. If I do that one, get up to AFB. No, I can get to Garrick. I think just... what I was saying, close to it. I can't remember. I'll go back and muck around with that now once I've done this video and then put in some trades and sort it out. But yeah, put that bit of a plan in. There's a few different options, and that's fantasy, right? You pick the one that you think is going to work out the best, as long as it's, sound structure. I've got my weekly trading checklist here still on my wall to keep me accountable to that, which I think I've done a better job at than last year, and in a better spot right now than I was last year as well. So hopefully we can keep moving in the right direction, even with the lack of trades. And big thanks to all of you for jumping in for fantasy. We'll actually do my tips that the new part of the new structure there hasn't allowed for that. So we'll do it at the end of the week there. With the doggies, I think we've got to tip them against the Dolphins. Even though they're not playing as well, they still keep their halves and their number 9 and fullback, which I think is very important there. And they get, Curran back, which is helpful. Over the Finns, who are doing okay without being great. We've got Eagles over Eels. I think just without Moses, without Lomax, you can't tip away. You can't tip with them. Panthers over Knights, just Knights are bad. Even though Panthers are missing a lot of players at home, got to tip them, I think. And hope that the Knights do pretty well with all the players we've got from them. Sharkies, basically full strength. You've got to tip them against a depleted forward pack from the Roosters. I'm tipping them by 10. And then the Warriors at home. Raiders have been a bit hot and cold there with leads and losing leads and all that kind of stuff, or giving away a lot and coming back. plenty of stuff there. So Warriors at home, we'll lock them in as well. So that's the tips. And then my Supercoach team, I've mucked around with a fair few trades. I've pushed myself into 14 available players, and I do have Thomas Cant as one of those guys off the bench, which was a little bit annoying. But I have gone for 3 trades I had early in the week with the buy, hold, sell. Had a few more views this week, so pretty excited about that. Releasing it earlier in the week, so hopefully we'll stick with that. With all the other fantasy videos going down in views as we move along, but I suppose we've done similar. There's been similar best buys for the last few weeks. Let's just say that. So, yeah, my trades this week have changed. I did have Burton coming in. Right now, I've actually changed that to Lehigh Hopewadi. I also had AFB coming in, but I just think my second row forward's a little bit down at the moment. So Lehigh Hopewadi's coming in with Olakwatu, and I'm just going all in a little bit on that Manly stack with Garrick and Olakwatu on the right and Lehigh Hopewadi on the left. And we saw that 1 try last week, and we know he has some upside. Burton should do okay this week. It's going to be in the slot. Not super excited about that. It might be the same out at CommBank as well for that game. But I think, Manly have the best chance of dominating Parramatta and have a really good run. So happy to roll in with that. And Teddy comes in as well. What the trades were before was Burton and AFB. But as I said, with second row forward, I sort of was in a little bit of curry with it. If the way I did it panned out, I think I would have had Tino or Simpkins come down for AFB in that front row forward spot. And there on that one, AFB would be out next week. And if, let's just say, Tino came down, it'd be Haas. If he's out as well, it'd just be May. So I'd have to muck around with moving one of those guys up again anyway. So that was the slight worry with AFB having the bye next week. And then this second row forward slot, I've got Nicholson and Egan. I couldn't upgrade this week. So hopefully one of those guys at least goes to Aiken next week or Kolomatangi or both. That could be cool. An upgrade downgrade type of, well, actually, that was the only slight worry with that is the 58k remaining, but we'll probably have another injury, or if Haas doesn't back up, we could sell him. But that's the thing. If things all didn't go very well, I'd be struggling a little bit with second row forward. So now in this case, I have Olakwatu, Horsburgh and Katoa that could play there next week, and then hopefully sell one of those guys to add to a fourth. And if we had an injury, then it doesn't stuff me around too much. I think Olakwatu's got some upside here. I'm not buying him near top dollar like you're seeing with Tarpanay. AFB, not really top dollar, but he's gone back-to-back really good weeks. Olakwatu has been a bit up and down, and we know he has 40s in him, but he also has some good scores as well, which is, what's he scored this year? 2 tries. Picked up 100 in both the games he scored tries. So, and then he only has the 4 try assists. For a guy that's a very attacking type of player and a team that has a pretty nice run of footy. So we know that Olakwatu can have his really big games. This year he has 200s and 280s, and then a couple of 60s in there with 40. So if he gets the 40s, that's, it is what it is. It's going to happen. But I think a bit more of a point of difference guy who has the upside from me sitting at like 10k works well. It does give me a little bit of cash available in the bank as well. And then we can, one at a time get those 2 guys, or if there's an injury or Payne Haas is down, we can just get, Aiken and Kolomatangi pretty easily for, a Haas and an Egan or something like that, and get through next week fine enough. And I have been thinking about next week as well with, Burton missing 13. Same with AFB. If I'm in 10k, I need to push hard over the next 4 weeks to get myself down near 5k and get myself into a better position to push for, top 2,000, top 1,000, which is the realistic goal right now. And if Hopewadi goes nuts, if Olakwatu goes nuts, then great. Whereas Burton this week in the slot against Dolphins, I can't really see him going crazy. And AFB, does he need to play massive minutes against the Sharkies in that week? And he's gone back-to-back weeks of tries. Can he do that again? Yes. But yeah, missing 13 as well. So that's kind of the general thoughts around that. Let me know if that works for you guys. Vice captaincy and stuff. If it is actually really wet, I won't go for Garrick in that one. It's a very similar thought with Farnworth. And now in that scenario, you're probably trying to go for, it would be a hard one. I'd personally want to, I think I kind of have to go for one of these guys in the earlier game and then select between Teddy and Hines. And if I'm bringing Teddy in, I think I should captain him. given he's my most expensive player and the best player over the last couple of years. That'd be the general thought there. I could captain in Newcastle tonight. I could captain Olakau'atu. These are all potential options, but yeah, we'll see. It's a hard one this week. You get a free crack at that VC with not having a full squad, with auto emergency and stuff. The auto emergency just comes straight into your team anyway. So yeah, Garrick, Farnworth, Olakau'atu. If it's pretty wet, I might just go Olakau'atu and hope for a pretty good score from him, and then Teddy or Hines there in that one. So that's my trades for the week, guys. Let me know your thoughts and what you're doing down below. You're all legends. I appreciate ya, and we'll catch ya in the next video when we go through that Thursday game, most likely tomorrow. Good luck tonight.